We have a major flashpoint developing down in South America that we're going to be talking about here. We're going to be looking at images here. We're going to be looking at maps. We're going to be looking at what's going on with a few articles and some diagrams to kind of explain what's going on here along the Venezuelan border here with Guyana. Now, Venezuela and Guyana do not agree on their border. This is where generally most places agree the border should be. But Venezuela has recently come out and said that this is where the border should be. And basically, they want to swallow up 2/3 of Guyana all at once. And this is mostly jungle territory that nobody's really cared about for a long, long time. But just offshore here, they have found quite a bit of oil. They found a lot of oil just offshore, and that has changed things pretty dramatically. But mostly this is sparsely populated jungle. Nobody cares about. Nobody really cares about Chinese landing and Quabana and all this kind of stuff like that. But what they do care about is if the border's here, then they get to extend their maritime border straight out here into the ocean and get to claim a lot of this oil and gas that is being developed offshore right now. Right now, Guyana has more oil produced per capita. More oil is produced per person in Guyana than any country in the world. That kind of gives you an idea of how much is at stake here. And most of it is sitting right offshore, right about here, right where this territory would be taken. And Venezuela is a much larger country than Guyana. We're going to be looking at some satellite photos and such. Center for Strategic and International Studies, they did an article just recently, and we're going to be looking at some of their findings of what's going on there. We're going to be looking at the breakdown of military buildup along the border, because that's what's really been going on here. Now, how many people are at stake here? About 125,000 people live in this border region. This area of Guyana, that's jungle and mountains. That is 125,000 people kind of in the midst here. That's about almost 16% of the total population of Guyana, but 2/3 of the landmass. So you can kind of see where this is headed. Is sparsely populated jungle that Venezuela is like, they won't miss it anyway. We can make these people into Venezuelans, and we can take all of that oil and gas. So what's the military kind of stack up here? Guyana has about 3,400 soldiers. 3,400 soldiers. Venezuela has 137,500 active personnel. Now, they've claimed that they have hundreds of thousands more in reserves and militias. So you can kind of see that this is not really fair. This is not anywhere near a fair fight. We have 44 planes, tanks, rocket launchers, and Guyana has sticks to throw, basically, at that's not exactly the case, but we're talking about second hand-me-down trucks, a few armored vehicles, that type of thing. They had one of their helicopters crash just when this started to kind of kick off this winter. So you can see that this is a major, major mismatch. The United States is basically on the side of Guyana. Venezuela, of course, is still being kind of sanctioned by the United States for doing business with China, and we have sanctions on them for being socialist and all that kind of stuff. But Guyana has signed a lot of deals with some of these big oil and gas giants. And so they're playing ball with the West and with the world economy at large. And so we have a lot of oil and gas companies offshore here. And there's a lot of talk about them potentially hiring mercenaries to help Guyana fight against Venezuela. Now, we're going to talk about some of the challenges that Venezuela has here, is because there's nothing here. This is empty rainforest, as you can see, mountains, and there's one road here, and this road is well, let's just say we're being a little bit. Where's my satellite? I lost my satellite. Guess I'm too close in for satellite. I guess I'm in satellite. Okay, that works. So this road is kind of generous. It's not a real road. It's a clear cut and not much there. They've been building this up, and that's one of the things that we've been kind of seeing here is there's a buildup along the border here of military personnel. Give you an idea here. This is one of the main areas we're looking at, Anacosco Island. And then we also have this military base here. Both of these bases basically didn't really exist in any real sense before this. And so we're seeing them rapidly developing these things in real time. So here's the island with the military strip out here. And this is what we're looking at here along this road here. They are building a bridge across this river, and they're building basically the capability to get troops over to this military island, because that is right on the border. And this is where they'd like to launch from. They'd like to launch the invasion probably in through here. A lot of people talking about them having to cut their way through Brazil here. Brazil, very concerned about that, has deployed troops to Boa Vista. Not exactly sure where they've done that, but we have articles here. And Brazil deploys troops to the Venezuela border. And again, that is here in Boa Vista, the city closest to this border region here. They don't want Venezuela coming through their territory and attacking this section of Guyana. They want to force them to have to go through the mountains and such. Let's flip that back over to terrain so you can see the mountain chains. So this is the situation and setup that we're looking at here. And this is not a small feat for them to launch this attack into Guyana. Of course, they want to probably do it peacefully if they can, but Guyana is really not looking at giving up a large portion of the revenue for their government. And even though they have very few soldiers, and it is definitely a David versus Goliath, Guyana is hoping that its international allies will really help out with this. And international allies are concerned with this. The United States has deployed the USS George Washington. The USS George Washington has suddenly appeared with its escorts. The prior week, our news fleet and marine tracker did not show the U.S. George Washington at sea at all. So it just kind of poof, appeared out of nowhere. Now, of course, militaries around the world probably knew where it was, but us civilians didn't really know where it was. This tracks news stories and such that tell us where something is. And one of the news stories that probably put that right on the map there was this is from the U.S. Embassy in Guyana. Southcom, which is, like CENTCOM is like over the Middle East. Southcom is South America. And so the United States flyover exercise over Guyana. Two F-18s basically flew over Georgetown. And of course, the U.S. Embassy said that they were from the USS George Washington, which puts USS George Washington right there on the map. Right there. So off the coast of Guyana, keeping an eye on what Venezuela is doing. And of course, we are not deploying U.S. aircraft carriers just because something might happen, but rather we are there to prevent things from happening, and because we kind of see the writing on the wall of what's going on. To give you an idea of just kind of some of the layout of the country here, this is the population density in Guyana. As you can see, like everybody lives right around Georgetown, right? Now, Venezuela wants to take this bank of Guyana away from them. The Essequibo or something like that is what they're calling this region here. They basically want their half from the river over. They want that to be the splitting point. So most of the population living in the Georgetown area, heavily densely populated villages and everything like that. This is mostly empty. jungle, and Venezuela thinks that it can grab all of that in one fell swoop. So what is Venezuela doing that has everyone so concerned? So Anacoco Island, river crossing, this is back on April 28th. And we were seeing already a Bailey Bridge being prepared up here. So they're getting prepared to push that over. Looks like they're actually trying to build a small gauge railroad track. So that could really change things. We got the narrow gauge railroad tracks down here coming up. So they might be trying to put a narrow gauge railroad track here, and then a vehicle bridge for armored vehicles and trucks and everything like that. Once again, to give you an idea of where that is roughly, there's the border with Guyana, and that is right up here on this little island here. Island Anacoco. So they're bringing stuff right across the border here into this military base that they're building up with this airstrip right along the border that they can then use helicopters to deploy troops across the border to attack different villages. And air strikes can be called in on any surface-to-air missiles and any kind of air defenses, which there probably won't be much out there. Now, Guyana has had a lot of time now to start making preparations, and they are probably getting advice from advisors from U.S. military and others. And so up in this high ground, up these mountains, they may be trying to get some surface-to-air missile batteries in place to repel an assault. They may be getting troops into place into these villages and such. But what you're probably going to be seeing here is a major naval move out of Gira. We have some developments there at that base, at the naval base in Gira. Here's the air base there. We have trainers and light attack aircraft there on the ground. Not too interesting necessarily, but the big thing is the naval buildup. So this is not their main naval base. Most of their naval bases are over in this area, in the more heavily populated areas. This is not a very heavily populated area of Venezuela itself. So this is kind of basically their furthest east military base for a big naval base. So they have Navy ships built here, Coast Guard, Pagalo class patrol craft, and Gavian class patrol craft. And then here's a big one that we're talking about a lot is the 5 Navy PACAP 3 Zolfalgar class guided missile fast patrol boats. They've recently outfitted these with longer range missiles that can shoot over 90 kilometers. So that's really going to be their main weapon of choice to attack Navy forces. But they really don't have much going up against them unless the United States and its allies put more ships out to sea and are actually going to keep them there. The George Washington is actually due out in the Pacific Ocean. It's supposed to take up station off the Chinese coast, so that can't stay there for very long. It's due in the Pacific Ocean, like I said. Now, we got a lot of carriers right now wandering all over the globe, which is unusual. Usually we have 3 or 4 of them out at a time, but we can see the Theodore Roosevelt. There's 1. We got the Reagan, 2. We got the Eisenhower in the Red Sea, 3. And then where else we got? We got the George Washington at sea here. And then we also have the Harry Truman, which is actually on the map, and it's usually not on the map unless it's actually out at sea. It may be doing like sea trials or something like that. But then we look out here and we see the Abraham Lincoln, and then we see the Carl Vinson. We got 7 carriers at sea right now, and that is concerning because usually we only have 3 or 4. We surge up to like 4 or 5. the fact that we have 7 at sea right now. Now, that may just be a little bit of a fluke, but that's just something that just kind of sends my little spidey senses into action there. Why do we have so many carriers out at sea all at once? And the fact that we have the USS George Washington is chilling out off the coast of Guyana. It's probably getting ready to go through the Panama Canal and out into the to relieve. I believe the Reagan is scheduled to come back to for refitting on the on the west coast of the United States. I believe the George Washington is supposed to take up station out here out in the Pacific. So a lot of stuff happening with the United States. We can't keep a presence there. Now, maybe that's what the USS Baton or the US Wasp is out there for, but the US Baton was recently in the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. That was actually in the Persian Gulf, came through the Red Sea, hung out there for a while, and then came up here to Israel. It is not a full carrier. It's not a nuclear carrier. It is a conventionally powered helicopter carrier or landing helicopter deployment. They're all called different things, but they're basically a little mini flat top, right? The USS Baton may be heading back, and we'll see where that kind of ends up in the next little bit. But major upgrades to the river crossing there, but then looking at the military base itself, at the Anacosco Island military base, we see recently cleared land. Looks like they're clearing land for more troops, so they can put more tents in. Fuel tank and pumping equipment station. Like I said, you need to look at the logistics. They're really building out their logistics network, and that really tells you this is their vehicle yard. Armored fighting vehicles, trucks, equipment, tents, expanded cleared area for more buildings and equipment. So we're seeing just a much bigger build out of this area with more troops headed that way. Let's go down to the airfield. This was back on March 26th. We have an updated one. You can see the military troop tents and everything like that. 75 tents of various sizes. Could hold hundreds of soldiers. These are in this area right now. Well, we're in that area. And then the most recent, April 28th, a month later, they were all moved down here into the trees to kind of hide. But we see about the same number of tents, but we're also seeing markings for helicopter landing pads. But tents also built up in that area, and we have building structures here. So we're probably going to be seeing this airfield. Basically, this is off to the side of the runway, so you can actually have aircraft parking there, or you can have helicopters parking there. This is far enough off the side that maybe they can use this for helicopter deployment as well. But in this jungle warfare that we're going to be looking at here, helicopters is going to be a really big deal, and that's what they're going to really need. And they're going to need to get those helicopters out there, but it's relatively fast to get helicopters out, but to get their crews out there, the machinists and all of the support crews and the weapons and munitions, that takes more time. And the fact that they can't get stuff across this river when it's in flood stage really tells you that you can't even see the road going out there because it's such a dirt track. The main road here is a dirt track itself, but this is really a rough road, and they're really trying to develop that so they can do that build up right along the coast, right along the border there. So Anacosco, it has a big buildup of military forces there. We also have the naval base of Gira up there getting ready. And apparently they're also building a bit of a naval base out here somewhere. We saw that up on some of the previous maps here. So Punta Barima, military naval base of some sort. We don't have satellite photos for that or anything like that. But that's kind of what we're seeing going on out in the jungle and it has a lot of people concerned. And that's the reason why we have an aircraft carrier sitting off their coast, because we are very concerned that something is major is developing. If this does go in, at first you'd say, well, it doesn't really impact us at all, but the United States very well will probably get involved due to the fact that we have some major oil companies that the United States have a lot of vested interest in, and this oil would go offline and potentially be sanctioned just like the rest of Venezuela's oil, and that would impact oil supplies out there in the world. So there is a good bit at stake, not for you and I, but for the powers that be and their rich people and the corporations. There's a lot of money at stake. And so because there's oil, there is inevitably going to be bloodshed, it looks like. All right, friends, that's what we're seeing out there. Hopefully that gives you a better idea of what's generally going on. Brazil is hanging there, and they don't want to be involved in this, but they also don't want to see Venezuela ganging up on Guyana. So will Brazil actually get involved in any kind of fighting there? I'm going to guess probably not, but that could happen. There's no formal treaties between Guyana and Brazil as of yet, but that may change in the near future if Guyana is able to secure a treaty with Brazil with a lot of their oil at stake. But of course, Brazil needs to think about whether they're going to commit their military forces to protecting Guyana. All right, friends, if you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up there on the screen. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.